Hi, guys. Just waiting for a few other people to join. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Playing with my Gruesome Gulch Depot. Howdy, Jim, Norman, Daniel, Scott. This will be fun. Gosh, I hope so. I hope it'll be fun. You know, the thing about live streams, can you guys hear me okay? Is the volume good? Here, I could just turn this up. Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to say, welcome to Old Guys with Technology. Um, the thing about doing live streams is there's no way to get good at it except, by doing it. There's like no dress rehearsal on YouTube. You just have to kind of go for it and hope for the best. Hope all the technical stuff works out and hope the signal is strong and hope the sound works and there's no going back and editing later. So we're flying by the seat of our pants. Oh, we got a lot of people here now. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. Welcome to Thunder Mesa Studio. Dave here. Wednesday night live at the studio. Thank you so much for joining me. I am messing around with my Gruesome Gulch Depot tonight. Doing this and that. Might work on it a little bit. I know it's kind of hard for you guys to see. I can adjust the camera if you need me to. But first, let's jump into the discussion. I want to talk about laser cutting, laser cutters, and it's great to see all of you here. Thank you so much for joining me. Laser cutter engravers and stuff like that, because it's probably one of the things I get asked about the most is what laser cutter did you have? Where did you get it? How'd you decide on that one? How much was it? Et cetera, et cetera. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. But first, I want to go on a little bit of a rant. Get up on my soapbox for a minute. I got to say that, YouTube is notorious for having trolls in the comment section. But the people who subscribe to my channel, you guys are the best. I mean, it's amazing. It's a wonderful bastion of positivity, and I really appreciate that. But every once in a while, I'll get somebody who will comment that because I use the laser cutter a lot, that using the laser is cheating. You're not really scratch building if you're using a laser cutter. So I wanted to address this. It doesn't come up very often, not as often as it used to, but I want to address this before I jump into anything else. And you're contemplating the next one. We'll talk about that in a minute, Daniel. I have no patience. I have no patience for that attitude. That's like saying, you're not really driving the nails in. If you're using a hammer, you should be using your thumb. You use the best tools that are available to you to get the results that you want. And I'm fortunate that I have a laser cutter and I learned how to use it. That attitude kind of implies that the parts just, thank you, Jim, the parts just appear. And I know that seems that some way, I know it can seem that way sometimes in the videos because I'll do a quick cut and it's like, oh, and here's all the parts. It's like I went like this and the parts just magically appeared. But that's not really how it works. There's a whole long process of design and figuring things out before you get the part and knowing what materials and all that stuff. So I guess long story made longer is that it's a tool like any other. And anyway, so the next question is, will you be getting a 3D printer? No, probably not. I don't have any interest in getting a 3D printer. I don't know why. It seems like I should, because it would be a real boon to me, but really just not interested in it. I know lots of people that have the best thing to have. It's like, do you want to buy? It's like the old joke. Do you want to buy a boat? No, I have a friend who has a boat. So what do I need a boat for? It's much better just to go use your friend's boat. It's the same with 3D printers. It's much better to just go use your friend's 3D printer or ask them to do it for you. You use a poor man's laser, a circuit. How's that going for you, Daniel? The circuit. I've heard that they were no longer supporting it or something like that. The software, there were software issues. I can't remember what it was exactly. Circuit cutter, yeah. Wigwag Workshop is here. Hey. The big kid is on the top. You made it, Lindley. Right on. Hello. The circuit cutter, yeah, that's the poor man's laser. You know, a lot of times I'm asked about. That's what it was. They're going to charge $10 a month to use the software. See, that's why I didn't buy a Glowforge. When I was shopping for laser cutters, I looked around a lot. I did a lot of research, asked a lot of people, talked to people that had different cutters, engravers, and you know, hey Randy, yeah, and spent, you know, because it's I won't kid you, it's a chunk of change to get a laser cutter. Even a low end one is an investment. So I shopped around quite a bit, and I looked at the Glowforge, and I looked at several others, and I ended up going with the Flux Beambox Pro. And the reason I went with that one is because it was a more powerful laser. It was a 50 watt instead of a 45 watt. And the thing with laser wattage is the more powerful it is, the faster the work gets done. So there's less standing around and waiting. So it was a 45. It was a 50 watt laser. It had internal cooling, just like the Glowforge, but it didn't have the online only software. That's kind of a deal breaker for me. If I can only use it by going through their website, then I don't really own it. So I'm nothing against Glowforge and people that have them and use them and love them, and I know a lot of people do. It just wasn't for me. So I went with the Beambox. Howdy, Patrick. All the friends are, hey, Robert's here. Hi, Robert. How are you? How are the plants today? So that laser cutter, you could easily make some N scale kits, right? Yeah, yeah, I could make them. I just have absolutely no interest in making N scale kits. And neither does Jake. I'm so sorry. I know there's a market for them, and there are people out there filling that market, and those people are not me. It's just not my thing. Clever Models. Daniel says, I have a Clever Models Old West cardstock kit. I am building it over board by board. That's cool. That's a good way to do it. Just using it kind of like a template and just building up on top of it. Randy asks, Randy, did you look at the Almtech laser? No. And I don't want to know because it might be better than the one I spent, you know. Yeah, they're not cheap. Easy to make the kit. Easy. Amen, brother. Easy to make the kit, difficult to assemble. That's so true of a lot of those. You would buy them. What? You get Greg? You'd buy what? N scale kits? Where do I source my laser board? Thank you for asking that, Ron. I have a new page on my website that you should go check out. It's at thundermesa.studio. That's my website. Go there and go to the Model Railroad Shop tab and the drop-down menu at the bottom. there's a tab that says Useful Links. That's new. Click on that, and there's a whole list, an ever expanding and growing list for every time someone asks me one of these questions. I go, oh, yeah, here's the source for that, and I put that in there. So the link is there. I get laser board from a company called Encompass Media. Laser board, acrylic, MDF, I get from them. And I eat for basswood, basically, and basswood and plywood, I get from a company called National Balsa. So, and you can find those links on my website, thundermesa.studio, useful links. Check it out. Have I thought of making an ON30 model of the Grizzly Flats? I assume you mean the Grizzly Flats Depot. Here's the thing. Jake, my partner Jake Johnson, who's out in Glendale, California, he designed a whole set of parts for the Grizzly Flats Depot in O scale, based on the old Scale Structures LTD kit that has all the great castings in it. And they're replacement parts for the cardboard parts that come in the kit. And I use them to build my depot here on the Thunder Mesa layout. We can't offer them, at least not through Crescent Creek Models, I can't offer them commercially because we don't own the rights to the Grizzly Flats Depot kit. Those are owned by Tim Mote, last time I heard. And he's talked about reissuing the kit with new improved laser cut parts. I would love to see that happen. But yeah, it'd be great to do the Grizzly Flats Depot, but because we've got all the stuff. We don't have the rights to do it. So, long answer to a short question. Raymond Russell, you bought your laser when it was 4 to 5 times more expensive. Exactly. You see, the price has come down, and it will continue to come down. So there is a benefit to waiting. They used to be $15,000, and now you can get a good one for a really good one. Almost, I wouldn't say commercial grade. Mine kind of straddles the line. It's good enough for some commercial stuff, but I wouldn't call it a commercial grade laser. It's a good consumer grade laser that we use for prototyping and stuff on the kits, as well as some limited production. So you can get one for cheap. Flux makes one called a BMO, which is their desktop laser model, and it's about the size of my cutting pad here, maybe a little bigger. And those are a little less expensive. It's a less powerful laser. I think it's a 35 watt CO2 laser. Excuse me. And you can pick one of those up for a little bit less. And there's a few others out there too in that price range. You can get a laser cutter for $500. This is what I learned in my research. You can get what's known as the Chinese blue box lasers. They're blue. You might have seen these out here, and you can find them on eBay and other places for like $500. The problem is then working on the laser cutter becomes your hobby. You have to, there's a lot of work involved in getting the thing to work the way and to just do the job that you want it to do. I like things that are plug and play because I want to spend my time doing this stuff. I don't want to spend my time doing this stuff. So yeah, but you can get them. If you enjoy tinkering around with electronic devices that can cut your fingers off, then by all means get one of those $500 ones if price is an issue. What'd you say, Jim? Right now prices are going up. Yeah, supply chain issues. Yeah, in the immediate term prices are going up, but the long-term curve is they're starting to go down. What material would you recommend for palm tree and fern foliage for cutting on a laser? Typhoon Lagoon Railway would like to know. Paper. You could cut it out of some heavier paper. Manila file folder paper would work. Or you could go with a light laser board called Polyback, which is usually ivory color. We use it for small detail parts sometimes. It's a little, might be a little bit stiffer than you want, but yeah, I'd go with paper. The agaves that I have on the layout that come from rail scale models designed by Travis Hanchug, um, they're they're made out of paper and they come out great. Michael Landon, I have one of those Chinese K40 laters. They aren't bad. I know they're not bad. I was exaggerating for effect. That you can get. I've seen some beautiful work made with them, but you know, it is a hobby in and of itself. That laser becomes a new hobby. It's like camera equipment. You know, I don't want to invest a bunch in camera equipment and stuff that I have to, because then that becomes a whole new hobby too. I have enough. As my wife is so fond of telling me, you have enough hobbies. Let's see. Any thoughts, DLT Berkshire? Any thoughts of adding Lily Bell to the Thunder Mesa engine fleet? The Lily Bell Waltz engine, probably not, but a very similar 440, yes. Like the CK Holiday type, yeah, sure. Yeah, I have actually some parts that have been sitting over there waiting for a while. Ron Piskel wants to know, will I make the deadline with Gruesome Gulch? You know, I'm trying. If you've followed my stuff for a while, like, you know, even back before I was on YouTube, back on Railroad Line and stuff like that, uh, you might notice I have one very serious fault, and that is biting off more than I can chew. I do it all the time. I do it. I consistently underestimate the amount of time it will take me to do things. And the reason for that is I get really excited and I get very enthusiastic about projects, and I get excited about a lot of different things, and I have a lot of different interests, and I want to do them all. And I'm 60 years old, and there's only so much time to do them all. So I tend to have unrealistic expectations of how much I can get done in a certain amount of time. So here's the thing: the front of Gruesome Gulch will be done by the deadline. The front side, the town, Boot Hill. You know, you've seen I've been working overtime on the scenery and the structures and stuff like that. That will be done by the 29th of October. The back, the caverns and stuff like that, that might take a little longer. I'm starting to realize that that might take a little longer. Plus, as much as I'm enjoying working on this stuff, I would like to get back to work on some of the projects on Thunder Mesa. I want to finish the Big Thunder mine for one thing. Let's see. D.L. Hemingway, how do I change the road names on my two Bachmann 260 030 locomotives? I want to reletter them for the Kansas River and stuff. Well, you have to strip the old lettering off, and and you'll probably have to take the paint off with it, because the Bachmanns, especially the Spectrum ones, are usually silk screened. They're screen printed on. It's not a decal. It's actually paint. So, in my experience, I had to do a tender or two this way. You have to strip the paint off and, yeah, and repaint it, and then have decals made, custom decals, and throw those on there. So yeah, that's how you would do it. Hobby ADD, Jim says. I suffer from that too. Yeah, man, don't we all? Oh, are you open to names of scheduled trains? You mean like the Thunder Mesa Flyer and stuff like that? Sure, yeah. It's supposed to be a mining railroad with that happens to have a mail contract, so it's not really a common carrier, but it kind of is. It's kind of in that loosey goosey gray area. Then mining railroads, they didn't usually name their trains, but it's all make believe. So why not? Typhoon Lagoon. You will bring the gruesome gulch to the next shindig in May. That sounds like a command rather than a question. Yes, I will bring it. It fits in the back of the Grand Cherokee. I made sure of that. So it will be at the next ON30 Fiesta out there in Riverside. Or whenever wherever I might come. I might take it other places. Let's see. 91%. Thank you, Daniel. 91% alcohol. I used acetone, but yeah, 91% alcohol will take the paint off. Yeah, you got to soak it and then rub it off. Yeah, I wish I could afford a laser cutter. That's what I said for years. I wish I could afford a laser cutter. I saw these other guys doing that and having fun and making stuff. And so, I got together with my friend Jake Johnson. We started a model kit company. And, at first we farmed everything out to other people. And then, when we did the Waltz Barn kit, after all was said and done, we realized for what we paid other people to laser cut the parts, we could have bought a laser cutter and still made money. So that's why I have one now. So I'm not recommending you start a model kit company, but as we were just talking about, the prices have come down. So yeah, it's but the whole, again, if you go to my website, Thunder Mesa Studio, useful links. There's a listing for Matter Hackers, which is where I got my laser from. They seem to have the best prices and support and parts and everything on there. And also they're big on 3D printing equipment. Um, and then there's also linked to the software, the design software that I use, because there's two parts to this equation. The laser cutter, and then it has its own software usually, which is kind of like the print driver for your printer. But it's not really design software. Just it's what you send the file to, and that goes in it, and that's what cuts it. You got to have you got to be able to do some kind of CAD, Corel Draw or other CAD program, or I'm sure there are much better ones now. I use Adobe Illustrator because that's what I've been using for 20 years to do other stuff, logos and things like that. So it's a natural for me. But yeah, and there are fortunately with software. Somebody asked me this the other day. Is there a good substitute for Photoshop that you can get without paying the ridiculous blood money to Adobe? Yes, there is. It's called GIMP. It's an open source photo editing software that does almost everything that Photoshop does, and it's free. Though the learning curve is steep, but so it is for Photoshop too, and Illustrator. So there are those options out there. What is the next big kit from Crescent Creek? The Birdcage Theater and the Tombstone, Arizona Birdcage Theater in HO scale. That's the next big kit. Zozo Horror Show, great username, asks, I recently started making some kit bash coaches and was wondering if you could sell a set of the seats that I did for the short coaches a while back. I'd have to look at those again. They're integral. The seats are integrated into the sides because it's like one of those Jackson and Sharp coaches that are like that. They don't flip like the Jackson and Sharp coaches do, but they're integrated into the sides of the car. So they're not independent from the car itself. A lot of people have asked me if I would sell kits of those parts. Here, hold on. Those parts, these right here, this is basically one of the, well, there's parts missing because I used it. One of the coach kits for the convert the roundhouse 36-foot shorties into ON30 excursion cars. There's another kit that's ready to go. It just takes time. It takes time to get them out on the market, and it takes time to write the instructions. That's probably the most time-consuming thing because I set a high bar for instructions, so that takes a little while. So the answer to your question is probably not just the benches, but the coaches themselves will come out, and they won't be that much. Norman says, put a line of question marks so Dave can see that. Yeah, the font. I'm an old guy. The font on YouTube is really small. It's like that's why I got my iPad down here. I'm reading the questions. I can't see them up on the camera there. I got to look down here. I meant one of the ON30 ones. You mean the seats from the ON30 coach? I meant one of the ON30, not the excursion cars. I'm sorry, I don't understand the question now. Can't wait for Jason Jensen to get his up and going. I will send you one of my cookbooks for the N-scale waltz barn. Cool. I mentioned chipboard a lot in my videos. It's basic. It's really cheapo cardboard. It's the stuff that if you buy like a pad of drawing paper, like a sketch pad at the art supply store, the chipboard is what's on the back. But I buy it in bulk. I get a ream of it because we use it for different kit parts. It's really good for prototyping stuff too. It's cheap and easy to cut, so you can figure out if things fit together real quick. On a 36-inch by 80-foot-inch door, would the Heisler and Climaxes work better? Work better than what? Work better than a Shea? Or which one would the Heisler work better than the Climax? I believe the Heisler would work better. I think it has a shorter wheelbase, but I don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. There might be somebody out here who knows. Affinity, yeah, that's the other Photoshop replacement. $50, right? Right. Oh, then the Moguls. Yeah. I can't run the Moguls on Thunder Mesa because of the 15-inch radius curves. They don't quite make it. They derail and head down into the bottom of the canyon. Daniel says, you can't really call yourself a scratch builder if you haven't stood in the grocery store buying a box of food and the cost and quality are the same, but you make your choice based on the material the box is made out of. I feel seen. Yes, that's absolutely true. Been there. Somebody this is the point I wanted to make about the laser. Somebody asked me, because I showed all the parts, for my my little depot here, which I was intending to work on, but it's more fun to talk. Um, if I had to, would I have done it by hand? Would I have done all the framing and stuff by hand? I'm like, sure. I have done it by hand. That's how I know how the framing goes together. That's why I know what it's supposed to look like. I have done it by hand. And if I didn't have the laser, I would probably do that way. I'd build a jig and cut the 2x4s and 2x6s and all the other pieces to size and fit it all together in a jig. And at the end of the day, the parts would look pretty much the same. So, and the thing is the thing about designing for the laser is it's not necessarily faster to use laser cut parts. It's faster for some things. What it is it's more precise. It's more precise and it's repeatable. You can make the same parts over and over and over and over again, which is why they're used in manufacturing kits, obviously. And they're very, very precise, much more precise than you can do by hand. So if precision is the goal, then yeah, they're great. But the time investment comes at the front end rather than during the build while you're fiddling around with all the little parts in the jig. So the time investment comes at the front end in the design, because you're figuring it out in 2 dimensions, flat, how things are going to fit together in 3 dimensions, and trying to design all these parts to fit. And you have to know the thicknesses and the tolerances and everything else, and the kerf of your laser, how fine it will cut, down to things like that. And so that time investment comes first. So I spent probably 3 hours designing this for the laser before I had any parts to build. So in that same amount of time, I could probably have put together a jig and made the parts, at least most of them, from scratch that way. So it's not really faster, and it's certainly not cheaper. Oh, the 20-foot coach. Oh, that one. Okay. Yeah. The little Thunder Mesa shorty. Yeah, that's the one I cut down from the Bachmann. Oh, and thank you. I'm sorry I misunderstood. I just, there's only so much. Everything's on the hard drive, but I don't have enough RAM to pull it all up at the same time, so it takes a while for me to catch up. So, yeah, those seats. I'll share a secret with you. I made it look easy in the video because through the magic of editing, but those seats were a pain in the ass to put together. They were not fun. You'd probably be better off scratch building some, um, than trying to do that. They were not fun. I wouldn't use that file again. Let me put it that way. I would redesign the seats and do it differently. But yeah. For the next live stream, have one of your friends in a small drop-down screen read the chat comments as you build. Building and chatting. Yeah, building and chatting is almost impossible. But I'm enjoying chatting with you guys. How did you find out the kerf on your laser? Experience, trial and error. I had a bunch of different materials that I tried to cut, and I experimented around with it a lot. You have to figure out the other things too, the time and the power settings for all the materials. And then the nice things, a good driver, a good software program for your laser cutter will allow you to input those and keep them in a file where you can just bring it up. Okay, so 1/16 of an inch thick basswood, boom, boom, boom. I want this amount of time and this amount of heat from the laser, that kind of thing. So those are the things you need to know. And the kerf is just, yeah, I found that I can cut down to, on most materials, anything up to about 1/8 of an inch thick, down to a scale inch and no scale. I can cut something a scale inch wide. Any smaller than that, and it just goes, it just burns away. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is here. You have an rockwork sculpt that I've started a long time ago out of the soft green floral foam. Do you have any suggestions to seal harden it so it can be painted? Yeah, latex paint will work. There's also a product out there called Foam Seal, I think, which I saw on the Micromark website. So go check them out. They got a whole line of stuff, foam stuff, on Micromark, and they have stuff for sealing foam. It's for the white beadboard, but it would probably work on the floral foam too. But I'd use latex paint. Just get a neutral tan and just go to town. By any chance, have you sold the old Thunder Mesa track plans as prints? Your track plans are fantastic and basically art. Oh, thank you very much. I have not sold them as prints. However, I have given them away many times as gifts. And to people who are on my Patreon. If you're a patron, I periodically I have some printed up, and I send them out to new patrons on Patreon. Um, um, but I'm not going to do that again for a while because I'll probably revise the plan again soon. If Robert says you can always come over and offer color commentary in the background while you do this. Oh, the problem with having one of my friends, one of my train buddies, come and read the drop down comments as I build is that they all live in California. They're all in California, and I'm here in Arizona on Mountain Stranded time. Mm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I love it when the solution is available at the local craft store or the hardware store. I'm on a first name basis with everyone at my local Ace Hardware. I love finding stuff in there that I can use. Hey, by the way, Woodland Scenics foam putty, oops, is this stuff right here. Vinyl spackle, exactly the same thing. Yeah, check your local hardware store, your craft store, your Michaels, your Ben Franklin's, etc. Hobby Lobbies, if you'd like to go there. Yeah. Daniel's wearing his Bandit Canyon Railway shirt. Thank you for your support, Daniel. Repeatable is important when you screw the first one up. I follow what I call the Savage rule, which I picked up from Adam Savage, which is if you need 2 parts that are the same, make 3. I always do. I always make extras. There's always extra parts. Uh, I'll cut as much as will fit on the sheet, and I'll use what I need, and when I screw one up, then yeah, there's an extra one. That's a very good way to go. Was I mistaken, or was there a video where it was mentioned to do a Phantom Manor somewhere in the layout? No, you are not mistaken. But then I jumped into this Gruesome Gulch project. So Phantom Manor will probably be, don't quote me on this, but probably be the project for next Halloween. Yeah, I always like to have a Halloween project, because it's my favorite holiday, just because you can do so much with it creatively. So yeah, next Halloween I'll probably do Phantom Manor. Is DCC easy? I haven't used it yet. Yes, it is easy. It makes the wiring of your layout much, much easier. There's no blocks. I mean, you can have block wiring if you want. You can have control blocks on a layout, but you don't have to with DCC. I don't have blocks. Well, that's not true. I've got some back in the staging yard, but for the most part, yeah, it makes the wiring super easy. The learning curve is not steep. It doesn't take much time to figure it out. A good DCC controller to start with, I will recommend it unreservedly, is the NCE Power Cab. The price is right. It's a little bit of an upfront investment, but it's got the whole unit in one thing. It's plug and play, and the instructions are pretty good, and you're good to go. That's what I've been using here for years, is NCE. That's true. I do get a lot of inspiration here. Yes, the idea for Phantom Manor was in an update video a few months ago. That's also included the update of the. I'm pointing over here like you can see the the Tumbleweed expansion, which is just basically a long shelf of the town of Tumbleweed, which is kind of another themed Western town, kind of like I'm doing with Gruesome Gulch right now. This one's a ghost town, a haunted ghost town theme, and that one is going to be a drowned town. It's going to be like a flash flood came through, so the buildings will be like all dilapidated, but in the water. That's going to be really fun. And we do that. That was announced with the Phantom Manor. Why would it have a power setting other than yes? Thank you, Arizona Ghost Rider. Thank you for subscribing. I've been pushing the YouTube thing in the past year. It's at first it was like, I would just film what I'm doing and see if people like it. People seem to like it. And, one thing leads to another, and it's kind of grown and snowballed and become a real side hustle. And now it's like, when your side hustle starts to take off, you want to make it your main hustle. It's more fun than designing stuff for clients, which I've done for years and years and years. And when you've done that and said, yeah, okay, I can change the color to purple that many times over 40 years, you kind of don't want to do it anymore. Did you give the Winchester salute? I don't know what that is. You see the Winchester ammo box. Is that up there behind me? Have you thought, DLT Berkshire asks, have you thought of using the Bachmann ON30 460 10-wheeler? I don't think it would negotiate, just like the Mogul, I don't think it would negotiate the curves on Thunder Mesa. So that kind of leaves me out. I can't get a C16. I can't get like a Mogul. I can't do the 10-wheeler. I can't use basically any rod engine bigger than the 440. So if I had to do it again, I might build it with broader radius curves, but I'm not going to go back and change it now. I calls it your side hustle too. It is a side hustle. Chris asks, curious question, Mr. Dave. Ever thought of doing a Zoom hangout, Patreon or Railpass? Yeah, we could do that. Yeah. When are you building the Skull Rock in Neverland? See, that goes back to what I was saying earlier about having more time and more ideas for things than I have time and to do. I might still do that. That was going to be HON 30, which should piss Robert off because HON 30 uses all the N scale parts, and I won't do N scale, but I will do HON 30. Have you thought about using a Forney with a Tendermine? Yes, I actually have one. I have a Bachmann Forney that's sitting back there. It runs and sounds beautiful. I just need to cut it up. I have. Hold on. I have the tender right here, and this is from the Cumberland Shops. Check them out over on Facebook. Cumberland Shops. Great 3D printed parts. I should put a link to them on my useful links page. Just fantastic stuff. Modifications to turn HO kits or HO locomotives into ON30, and cute little tenders like this for the Porter and for the Forney. So yes, it's on the list. That's actually going to be locomotive number 5 for Thunder Mesa. Yeah, the 10-wheeler is huge. You're right, William. It's bigger than the 280, and I can't run the 280. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that. The BLI C16, Daryl, negotiates 15-inch radius curves. Yeah, because it has the center blind drivers. The problem is getting one. You can't find them. At least I can't. Oberon 85937. I just want to say I love the fact you made Gruesome Gulch shaped like a coffin. It's a fun little Easter egg. Yeah, because when people see it, it's really obvious in the plan, but in the layout itself, it takes a minute to process that it's shaped like a coffin. It's not immediately apparent. It'll be more obvious when I get the fascia on there, and there's going to be some brass handles for pallbearers, which will be handy when I move it from place to place. But yeah, thank you. Volume is great. Good. I always worry about the sound. The picture I've got down, sound quality is a real hard thing to get right on these videos. Have you thought of expanding the coach fleet for Thunder Mesa? Because Disneyland originally had the 5 coaches combine. Oh, you mean like add to the combine car that I did, Combine 101, like do the rest of Retlaw 1? I've never really had any desire to do that. It's a great looking train, and I have access to the source material. It's up in Santa Margarita. I have a lot of pictures and measurements. I could do it, but the thing is that the coach that is big, because it's like a full size narrow gauge coach on Thunder Mesa, and it's so the idea is it's actually on loan from the parent company, the Santa Fe, Denver, and Carrollwood. So the rest of that train exists somewhere out there with the Santa Fe, Denver, and Carrollwood. And if I ever did a model of the Santa Fe, Denver, and Carrollwood, then yeah, I would definitely build an entire Retlaw 1 train. Wearing a mic makes all the difference from the audio. Yeah, a lavalier mic really helps. And, this is a great Amazon find. I think $40, something like that. It has a little Bluetooth thing that plugs in. And the nice thing is, too, because of the exterior sound, too, the highway, and I've got the air conditioning running. I bet you guys can't even hear it. So it really does help. Yes, David, thank you. You never found any issues with your sound. Well, you're not one of the complainers. You're not one of the nitpickers out there who wants to say, hey, why don't you fix your sound? The last live stream I did, it's like, yeah, it was pretty good except for the drunken cameraman. Come on, man. I'm sorry. Like I said, with the live stream, you got to figure it out as you go. It's not like you're born knowing how to do it. I didn't have a gimbal. Today I'm using a tripod, so nobody should get seasick. Sam, you're a complainer? No, you're not. Timber Creek Steam Company. Hi, it's great to meet you too. Thanks for tuning in tonight. This is great. I'm having a lot of fun. I would love to do this every week on Wednesday nights. Hopefully, what I would love is to have, if anybody out there knows if they make a B camera for the iPhone. I was talking to Jake about this, and if somebody hasn't invented this yet, they need to invent it. Because I just said, I have the microphone thing that plugs into the phone, which is great. There should be like a GoPro that has a Bluetooth thing that you can plug into the phone, so I can talk to you, and then have a little letterbox up here that you could see on the workshop, because I can't use 2 cameras at the same time the way it's set up now. It's either me or the work. So since I was doing a Q&A tonight, it's me. Lucky you guys get me. I said I was going to work on this, but I've gotten absolutely nothing done. Ever thought of making the Chloe the yard switcher for the Thunder Mesa layout? Chloe's a great looking locomotive. Sure, why not? I would love to build a Chloe type. Probably start with a Bachmann Porter and figure it out from there, or maybe an HO 040. Or, yeah. ON30 is funner. That's right. Model railroading is fun, but ON30 is funner. uh, Curious, Libermentus, I'm curious if you have any teaching experience. I've really appreciated the detailed tips and techniques. I love the long construction builds. Thank you very much. Um, you know, no, well, the only teaching experience I have is doing art workshops. I've done a few art workshops here and there. What I have is theater experience, which is just as handy. And on top of that, I worked my way through school. I was a bartender for about 10 years. I wasn't in school for 10 years, but I was a bartender for 10 years. And that, you have to learn how to talk to people or you're doomed. So thank you very much. I appreciate that you like the videos, and I always try not to bore people. I feel that my greatest strength is, and it's kind of ironic because I'm doing a live stream, but I feel I'm better at editing than just about anything else in this realm. I'm good at putting it all together. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Great teaching in a bar. Yeah, I passed my bar exam. Lindley would like to know, have the monsoon rains caused any issues this year? Yes. For those of you who are unaware, I know California, I grew up in Southern California, and summertime there is dry as a bone. It don't rain. You don't see a cloud until November, usually. Here in Arizona, we have the monsoons, which is tropical moisture that the heat of the Southwest actually uh, draws this moisture up from the Gulf, and it kind of swirls around. If you ever see a weather map, you'll see this, it's like swirling clouds, and we get a lot of rain this time. We actually get about half, maybe more, maybe over half, I'm not sure exactly, of our rainfall in the summertime in Arizona. And we've had a very big monsoon this year, and it's caused some flooding up in Flagstaff and down in Tucson and some other places around. Fortunately, we've been very lucky here in Jerome, knock wood. No real problems here with flash flooding. But yeah, at Flagstaff, bad, because they had a lot of fires up there last year. And so the fires burn the hillside away. There's nothing to hold the mud in. And then when it rains, it all comes to town. So it's been a problem, but not right here. Everybody's fine right here. You're heading to Walt Disney World in a week. Need any photos taken? I'm not modeling anything from Walt Disney World, but thank you very much. If you were going to Disneyland Paris, I'd ask you to take pictures of Phantom Manor for me. Which brings up, I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon because I don't want to drone on and on. Former bartender, I could talk all night. But the common misconception is that the idea for Thunder Mesa comes from Disneyland Paris because their frontier land is called Thunder Mesa. That's not true. That's not where it comes from. It actually comes from the original Mark Davis concept for Walt Disney World. So if you were to take, as you're going to Walt Disney World, you take Caribbean Plaza, where Pirates of the Caribbean is, Splash Mountain, and Big Thunder, and put them all together in one huge show building, that was basically Thunder Mesa as planned by Mark Davis and others. Um, and except for instead of pirates, it was a ride called the Western River Expedition, which was a kind of a Wild West version of Pirates of the Caribbean. Never got built, obviously. They built Pirates of the Caribbean instead, and then they used the name Thunder Mesa when they did Disneyland Paris. So that's where the concept actually started. I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but there you go. Solar Windows. I've been watching the channel since the beginning. I've got to admit, you're an impressive teacher, even though you don't know it like your technique, or do I dare and it doesn't work. Even though you don't know it. I like your technique, do or dare and it doesn't work. Try again. I don't know what that means, but thank you. Oh, here we go. On the Gruesome Gulch Railroad. How about a Magna Rail traveling 4 horsemen, the Headless Horseman et al. While you're, yeah, you know, that would be fun. The problem is that with horses and wagons, the Magna Rail thing works really well with buses and trucks and, you know, fire engines and stuff like that. Things with wheels. With horses, the legs don't move, so it's just like, so it looks like a, you know, a carousel horse. The legs aren't moving, so it doesn't really grab me. If they could do it, if somebody figures out how to animate those tiny little legs, then we'll have something. Now I'm getting ready to close this up. I want to show you, since you brought up the Headless Horseman. I'll be right back. See, I'm back already. One of the companies you will find linked to on my website is Mini Prints. They are a Canadian company, and I was turned on to these guys by my friend Bob Kerner of the Typhoon Lagoon Railway fame. I couldn't believe I didn't know about them, but I didn't. And they do the most wonderful 3D printed detail parts, vehicles, animals, very unique figures. And on the topic of unique figures, here's something that's coming to Gruesome Gulch. Since you guys tuned into the live stream, you get a preview. I don't think I've shown this to too many other people. This is the Headless Horseman. And here's his pumpkin right there. So he is going to be prominently featured. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to put him yet. I'd kind of like to figure out maybe a Pepper's Ghost effect where he appears and disappears somehow. But I'm not sure where I'm going to put him yet. I just saw it and said, "Oh man, I got to have that," right? With the flaming pumpkin. Yeah. Yeah. Ichabod Crane. So that's pretty cool. So Miniprints, miniprints.com. Check them out. If you haven't experienced them yet, you owe it to yourself to check them out. Something with a projection effect. Yeah. That's going to be the river of souls down in the caverns. Going to be projected. All right, my friends, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in to my Wednesday night live stream. I do want to make this a regular thing, but I will not be here next week. I'm not going to do one next week. I'm actually going to be on the road, traveling with the family. We're going up to Yellowstone National Park for a week, taking the youngins. They're not so young anymore, but taking them up there and gonna have a nice time and see all the sights and see Old Unfaithful and hopefully not fall in a mud pot. So I'll be gone next week, but 2 weeks from tonight, I think we'll do another one. Well, what's that date? That's a Wednesday, whatever the Wednesday after next is. I'll keep you all posted via social media, here on YouTube, over on Patreon, Facebook, Instagram, etc. Thank you all, my friends, so much for tuning in and supporting the channel. Have a great night. And as we say here in Jerome, well, I say it. Nobody else says it. Keep moving forward, folks. Adios for now. Well, now I got to turn this thing up.